Friday. I think we're going to change the name to just Financially Fit.
Like
Due
it.
to COVID and being in the office, out of the office, quarantining, not quarantining, all these different things, I think it's time to change the name because we can't hold ourselves to Fridays because of everything that's happening. So be just financially fit. Um, Topic discuss or table discussion, I guess, for lack of a better word. But again, my name's Alan Dembski, and I have with us Tanya Abaya, advisor with Buffalo First Wealth Management, and we're excited to get back on the air after a nice holiday. Hopefully, everyone had a great holiday and a happy new year, and we were socially safe and distanced during that time, and everyone will start the year happy, healthy, and terrific as we go forward. But to kick it off, we're going to start with a topic. Tanya and I have been discussing what topics we want to talk about, and I think it's a good time to talk about family planning. And with everything that's happening in the world, with everything that's happening in our households, business, and also home front, we'll touch a base on that topic for our 10 minutes here today. And again, if you don't follow us on Facebook, this will be posted to Facebook and our YouTube channel. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and check us out and for our continued series that we're going to do. But Tanya, I just want to kick off and hopefully you had a good new year and just kind of tell our audience of how you define family planning.
Actually, for me, family planning is really easy. It is estate planning plus communication. So, as financial advisors, we talk to people a lot about retirement and estate planning. And for anyone who doesn't know or isn't quite sure about what estate planning is, it's wills and who gets what, where the house goes, any type of thing that you might be passing on. But then also it is partially what happens to you when your life ends. And that's where the communication really comes into play. They've done some surveys on family legacy. And what they've discovered is family legacy planning is really wealth and how you pass on the wealth. And that passing on the wealth works really well if the beneficiaries know what's coming, know how to handle what's coming. But even if you don't have lots of wealth, and that might be some people who simply say, forget it, I'm not passing much on, maybe my house. Right. You still have a number of other things. For instance, you really do need a will, but you also need to make sure that the people who are going to take care of your end of life know what to do for your end of life. So that's what family planning.
So when we talk about communication, is it just a phone call?
Yeah, no. So communications is literally sitting down. And I can tell you I did it personally just recently with my parents. My dad's really good. He's got, all this stuff set up. But someone asked me what they were going, when your parents die, what are their plans? Do you do a memorial service? And of course, a lot of this has come up through COVID. A lot of our sort of normal end of life things have been turned on their heads because people have had to do different things with their loved ones when they've passed with all of the restrictions. So I sat down, and definitely not an easy discussion to start up, but it actually worked really well. And I now have a better understanding of what both my parents would like to have happen when something happens to them.
Do you think, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but do you think COVID has changed some of the forefront? I mean, over 300,000 deaths throughout the U.S. because of COVID, or COVID. I don't want to say because of COVID, but COVID right. related.
COVID related. I think that there are no silver linings to this virus. However, I do think that it's kind of showed that communication is absolutely necessary, especially if you assume part of the problems with assumptions, and especially with people dying sooner than what we think they will, is that family members can tend to get very upset about what should happen. And they can, if it's not set out, then, and if everybody doesn't understand what's happening, I've seen families actually fight over it. And here they are, they're really grieving for the person who's passed away, and they're taking it out on each other because each one of them has this idea of how it should happen. And with COVID, a lot of times, none of what they think should happen is even able to happen. So there's this extra sort of pain that goes on, not only the grieving process, but the fact that they feel like they can't grieve in the right way. So I hope that with the COVID, I feel like people are talking a little more about it, even though it's not exactly a fun discussion to have.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I just talked to a client, and I didn't even tell you this story. So she's been a client of mine for over 15 years, I would say. And she told me she's known 34 people that have passed away because of COVID. And
Wow.
this is another client that had her sister pass away years ago, and the inheritance almost tore apart the family. Well, it did tear apart the family.
Right.
But I was starting to think, like, out of those 34 people, when we started talking about this, how many people actually took the steps to make sure that everything was taken care of if, God
Well,
forbid, something happened?
they've done studies, and the studies say that 50% of people have a will. A lot less of that, a lot less of those people then have a health proxy or an end of life plan. And so if you're talking 34 people, there's a chance that a good, what,
17 people probably didn't
didn't
plan.
have any plan at all. And even the ones that maybe did have somewhat of a plan, they may not have expressed it to someone and no one knew. So,
I mean, one of the things, speaking of that, is I was talking to one of our insurance brokerage companies, and my rep there, and he said that nationwide life insurance sales have gone up, almost doubled last year because of COVID, that people needed to get life insurance that had been procrastinated.
yeah, I mean, that's just, that is going to continue. And we've talked about it also with life insurance, how COVID will affect it. And we don't know the answer to that
Right.
as of yet.
So, what are a few things that you're recommending to people going forward here?
Well, my two big ones are the paperwork, which is a will. Like I've already said, 50% of people don't have wills. I talk to friends of mine, a lot of them don't have wills. A will is an absolute necessity, okay? A will and a health proxy. A health proxy is an absolute necessity. People, your family, it makes it a lot easier on the people you love if they have an idea of what's going to happen. And then that's the second part. The second big thing is communications, especially in today's technological world. You might have somebody who, my dad's pretty savvy with all of his investments and everything. And he's got stuff everywhere. Well, he has showed me exactly where the passwords are. If you can't, if somebody, that's a good thing as his child, to know that, because if you pass away, if I pass away and nobody knows where my passwords are, it's very, very hard to get in.
Well, I
Especially,
just, sorry to cut you off there, but
go ahead.
talking with a few estate planning attorneys recently, they're throwing in, because if my spouse wanted to get access to my social media accounts, they can't get it. So attorneys are now throwing in write-ups inside the wills and powers of attorney, those documents that the spouse should be able to get access to the social media, especially social media. I mean,
Absolutely.
unfortunately, I've known a lot of people that have passed away in the last few years, and their social media account is still active.
Yeah, that's a little weird and uncomfortable. Um, so,
Right.
so yes, you see, these are the kind of things that people don't even think about. But having that conversation brings all sorts of ideas out. And so Alan and I, we live in the sandwich. We're the sandwich generation, which honestly, I don't even know what we're really called. All I know is that I have baby boomers as parents, and I have the largest population. I can't remember. Are they Z? I don't know.
Millennials.
And well, I'm not sure if they're millennial, but I have two that are in college and one heading towards college. So I am truly, we have three
So
generations that we deal with.
1980 to 2000 is the millennials.
See, there you go.
And then Gen
Uh,
Xers, I think.
So Gen X. So I have those. I have the next generation. We need as kids to start talking to our baby boomers, our parents, and really have those discussions as to what they want to have happen. Because we're going to be in charge of them. We already are in a lot of cases. A lot of my friends are already taking care of their parents. So these conversations are so, so very important. And then I would like to make a shout out to the people who are baby boomers. Anybody who's, 65 to 80 years old, if you haven't talked, and I know there in America, there is this real bias, this real belief that you shouldn't talk to anyone about your money.
Right.
In fact, they've done other studies where it is easier. They've noticed that people have an easier time talking about sex than talking about
Money.
Exactly. Yes. And I have had so many people say, I don't want them to know what I'm worth. They don't need to know what I'm worth. Actually, they whether or not they know what you're worth, they should know where your assets are and what your
Right.
assets are and how to help you get to where you want to be near the end of your life, and then how to access them after you're gone.
So why do you think people procrastinate with this?
Well,
Fear, just a
Well, part of it is
you
that whole
know,
idea about I don't think anybody should know about what my assets are. That's one of them. Another thing is, okay, so I went to talk to my mom and dad, but I feel a little guilty talking to them because it sounds like I'm waiting for them to die. So, mom, what do you want to have happen when you
yeah,
die? It's like, wait, are you waiting for me to die? How did this come up? No, you shouldn't feel that way, but it is. That's for me, that was my procrastination. It's just the uncomfortableness. And it's something that, we as Americans are good at kicking the can down the road, right?
right.
It's not something I need to do right now, right? Right now, I need to go and make dinner for my kids, or I need to do this for my client, or I'm going to go work out. It's one of those things that is easy to just kick down the road, but it's really important that you don't do that anymore. It's really important for all of us that we all make a will, talk to our parents, our kids about what we want to do near our end of our life and then afterwards. And
Well, that's the biggest thing is the way I've phrased it before is we're not doing it for when you're dead or you're dying. We're doing
No.
it for the living. We want
Right.
to celebrate life and celebrate what you worked so hard for. But we want to make sure that it's done in the proper way, based on what your wishes would be
it
in this.
makes it so much easier for your loved ones. It just really does. And therefore, and that's what you want. You don't want them to have to be mourning you and trying to figure out where the password to the bank is. It's just not something that anybody
Right.
should really need to do. So.
Absolutely. And the last thing is you want it to go where you want it to go, not where the court decides it's going to go.
That's the will part. Everyone should have a will. Even if you feel like you aren't worth anything as far as wealth goes, you are. A will doesn't take very much money and it doesn't take very long, and you get to choose. Exactly.
And just to let people know is we have relationships with attorneys. So if you're not sure, you can always reach out to us.
Yes.
We'll give you a few people to reach out to. Just like financial advisors, attorneys, accountants, same person isn't always the right person for you or your situation. Is you got to talk to people and see who you like and who you'd want to work with and reach out to them. And also, if you feel like you can't even afford one, there's services out there, neighborhood legal services or the Volunteer Lawyers Project, where they'll help you and, based on income and different needs, work inside that budget to make sure that you get everything taken care of. We could sit here all day and just tell you stories of things that have happened to clients and friends
Yes.
and relatives. The list goes on and on. Just in the news every day, I just got an article on Prince. Prince didn't have a will when he died, and the estate is underreported of what his earnings were. Now the IRS is coming back on. It's like, oh my God, he's been dead for like 2 or 3 years.
What about the co-owner or the owner of Zappos? He died.
Oh yeah,
and
1 year
yeah,
older, 43.
no will. And so now they're trying to figure out what to do. And he's got stuff in 3 different states. And it, again, those are people who are really, who have a lot of assets. But it matters even if you have only a small amount of assets. That still creates issues for the people who are still alive.
Absolutely. So we're gonna wrap up today. We probably exceeded our time, but our trusty
Probably.
assistant Ellen will edit this down and go from there. But certainly like our page on Facebook, Buffalo First LLC. Like us on Twitter or follow us on Twitter and subscribe to our YouTube channel. With that, we're gonna close it down and have a great weekend. And we'll try to touch base with you next week.
We'll see you next week. Stay safe.